Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL on a daily basis. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Last practice before Arizona. Number 13 is in the books. Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers. With the practice being over, it does not mean that the work is over for the team. They will continue team meetings, go through another walkthrough, and make sure they have the game plan set for the Cardinals.
Today was a day to work some, again, some situational type football. We didn't do the goal line group out here. We walked through that, earlier. We got a chance to work some backed up or coming out situations. We got a chance to work 3rd and goal down there in the red area. We got a chance to work 2-minute at the end of the game. So a lot of situational work. I think it was really good work that we got in today. I think our guys, competed hard. And so now we'll start, getting ready to kind of turn our attention to, Arizona and start preparing for those guys. We got a travel day tomorrow to head there, and look, it's not going to be anything complicated from a game plan standpoint. We're not spending a ton of time in a game plan process. I want to get our guys out there and let them play football. So that's the plan.
As the Saints nail down their plan for the preseason game number 1, with the new offense and new coaches, quarterback Derek Carr said after practice he hopes to play Saturday.
I think I would like to just getting out there and just hearing Clint's voice in the helmet, calling plays, getting the substitutions in and out. I think that'd just be good for our, us as an offense. We're not going to, how the preseason goes. It's very basic stuff, very, very easy, simple. You don't want to show anything, all that kind of stuff. But even with that said, you're not game planning the team. I haven't seen any film, so you need to go out there and play. But I think just the operation and just getting in and out of the huddle with each other, getting used to it, getting back in that swing, I think hopefully you knock some of that game day kind of rust off before you really get to the regular season.
It was a very spirited end of practice as the team went through end-of-game situations. Carr and the ones stalled with 45 seconds to go on the clock, starting from their own 45. Quarterback Spencer Rattler quickly drove down the field. Running with the 2s, he hit Kevin Austin Jr. for a touchdown on a back shoulder throw for the 14-yard touchdown. Quarterback Jake Haener drove the 3s down the field as well, slinging it 27 yards to Samson Nacua, who made an incredible grab over the defender. Haener was extremely fired up after that drive. He was yelling things that I can't necessarily say on this podcast. Carr got another shot after that, but his drive ended with 3 sacks, Chase Young and Carl Granderson getting to him easily. Coach Allen called practice at that point, didn't want to go through the Hail Mary situation.
It wasn't the 2-minute drive we wanted today. They finally got us. I'll say that. Cam's always talking crap about these competitive drills. They finally stopped us. I think we're up 7-1. I don't know if that's the right count, but I'll just stick with it. But they got us today. But what you're saying is you see guys really trying to do things the way they're taught, because if everyone does it the way they're taught, it usually ends up right. And so again, these coaches have such a system that it takes everyone being on the same page. And so the more reps we can get being on the same page and doing it, live bullets, all that, I think it'd be just a good thing.
What's been your impression of y'all's pass rush so far this game?
Really good. Yeah, really good. I think that not just interior, but on the edges too, like everybody, and guys moving, doing different things. We have so many guys that are versatile. They can do different things. Not all guys can go inside. Not all guys can just go outside. We got guys that can do both, and that creates a lot of problems. As just an offensive-minded guy for protection issues, And so I've been really impressed with the pass rush. I mean, just what they've shown, and but I've also been equally impressed with our line picking them up. They've given me, as you guys seen, great opportunities all camp for some deep shots, for some big plays and things like that. But the one thing you see is this back and forth. Our whole camp has been back and forth, offense, defense, even period to period. And that just shows the competitive nature of our team. And so I've really seen that in the O&D line, but I've been really impressed. And you see Chase Young just walk out here, and you're like, I see why he was a top 5 pick. Him just walking out to practice, and he's very impressive when he comes out here, and his get off, his motor, all that. But he's even better person. I just have found just being here, that that's how the Saints do things. They get good players, but they're also really good teammates, and you appreciate that just as a player.
Earlier in practice, we did get our first big altercation of training camp, which means it's definitely time to line up against somebody else. It happened on a Jamal Williams run during teams, and it ended up with Trevor Penning going at Willie Gay Jr. Penning's helmet came off at one point, and Penning was held out for a few snaps afterwards. As far as attendance, linebacker Jalen Ford was back on the field and participating. Wide receiver Equinemius St. Brown and tight end Juwan Johnson continued to work off to the side, as we've seen the last couple days. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore and wide receiver Bub Means were observers. We've seen them show up the last couple practices and take it in. And then today, we saw wide receiver Rashid Shaheed come out later to watch practice as well. With the injuries in the wide receiver room, the Saints only have 6 receivers that can participate right now. Usually on a roster at this point, you're carrying about 12. That could present some challenges Saturday. DA said they may mix up some personnel packages. They may have to. At this point in training camp, injuries are tough for some players on the fringe.
Guys that have injuries, they got to be doing everything that they can to get themselves back out here as fast as possible. Different guys are in different positions. There's guys that we have more experience with and more volume of information on that we feel like it's a lot easier for us to make decisions on. And then guys that we don't have as much information on, makes it more challenging to make those decisions. So I think it's important for all of these guys, and in particular the young guys that haven't proven themselves. I think it's important for them to get healthy and get back out here, because the only thing I can do is I can only evaluate what I see out here. And so if you're not out here for me to evaluate, then it's hard for me to make a determination that you're one of the best 53 to be on our team.
We had another well-known guest at today's practice with Saints legend Malcolm Jenkins on hand. I caught up with him afterward to get his take on practice and the team. Malcolm, you're out here taking in some training camp practice. What are some of the things you look for when you're here at practice?
Yeah, I look to see the competitiveness. These are opportunities where obviously the days are long. You're playing against each other over and over again, but I want to see the consistency and leadership and competitive juices to see if guys are, carrying that day to day, because you're going to need to carry that throughout the season. I thought today was a great day to come out. I think yesterday Coach challenged them, said they were a little flat, and had a lot more energy toward the end of this practice. So definitely encouraging.
Somebody that's continued to bring the energy as his career continues is safety Tyrann Mathieu. What is it about his game that makes him so effective with as many years as he's played?
Yeah, I think he's savvy. I think his ability to, one, understand the game, study the game, and it's important to him, and it tells. He's always been a natural playmaker, but I think, his next step in elevating his game is really being able to bring people with him and make those around him better. And he's not the biggest vocal guy, but when he speaks, everybody listens. And he leads by example. And I think, he's a great leader in that secondary, and this team's definitely going to need him, down the stretch. How important is it to have a vocal guy in the secondary? Yeah, a huge part of, secondary play is communication. So somebody's got to be able to speak and really take command, on the field. And that's really everybody, but every now and then you need vocal leaders that can kind of shake and shock the group into action, that can be the energy when there is a lull. And that might vary. It might be one guy this day, it might be DeMario the next. And the more you have, the better off you are.
You played a while with head coach Dennis Allen. How have you seen him grow in his leadership as a head coach?
Yeah, I've seen Dennis. He was my DB coach when I first got here as a rookie, and now I'm seeing him mature throughout the league and as a head coach even. I think he's, at this point in time, really doing a great job of empowering his players to take over and take ownership of some of the things they do. And I think that is, the next step to really developing culture and really getting back to or establishing what we've been used to, wanting to get back to around here, And that comes from the top down. That's allowing players to be invested. That gives them more input, but also gives them more accountability, right? They get to have input for it, so they are directly responsible for the results. And I think that creates a collaborative effort that is strong.
How have you seen this team come together? Culture was a big word that came up at the end of last year.
Yeah, I think there's been a huge emphasis on it this year. I stopped in the offseason, and culture and team building was a big part of the messaging, starting with leadership. And I've seen, guys talking to Marshawn Lattimore, talking to Tyrann Matthews, Demario Davis's. They understand that team building is a big part of it, camaraderie, and that has nothing to do with X's and O's. That's about, spending time on task with one another, spending time outside of the coaches, a lot of meetings with each other. And getting back to that, is important. And I've seen that since I've been here.
You're somebody that changed positions early on in your career from cornerback to safety. And looking at somebody like Alontae Taylor, who's moved from outside to nickel, how difficult is that to accept?
Yeah, I had a good conversation with him about that thing. Just, I was in the same situation, drafted as a corner, wanted to be known as a corner. But the reality is, in this league, if you want to get paid, you want to have success, you got to get on the field. And a lot of the times, that might require you to play different roles. But what I've learned is the more versatile you are, the more positions you can play, the more valuable you are to the team. You're the guy that can fix all of the problems when somebody goes down, because there will be injuries. We know that about this game. And I think, even from the spring seeing him, and even now in training camp, his demeanor and his attention, his intentions have been completely night and day, to be honest. He's embracing the role. He's learning. He's asking questions. He's paying attention. He's being vocal. He's bringing the energy. And I think that's what you want to see. That, that stuff can be a bit of a transition when you want your career, your position to be a certain way. But I think he's embracing the team first mentality, understanding that if he handles his job, the rest, the business and his career would take care of itself.
Speaking of business, what are you up to these days?
I still got, a lot of businesses. I'm doing a lot with my foundation, still doing work between Philadelphia and New Orleans, spending time with my kids, obviously, getting out here a little bit, but, just enjoying life.
When you look at training camp and you think about the season coming up, what would you like to see the Saints achieve this year?
Yeah, obviously we want Super Bowls and things like that, but realistically, you want the team to be competitive. You want to win the division that puts you in the playoffs. And at that point in time, this is one game at a time. And so I think when you look at the division, there's no reason this team can't win it. And I think, that's encouraging, because that gives you an opportunity to get further down the road. But I've always been one of those people that in training camp, I do not look down the road. I think it's a here and now. There's so much for this team to get done in the next few weeks before week one. Crucial things to get done in order to even give themselves a chance. You look at the first 6 weeks of the season, they're going to need to hit the ground running. And that means that all of this time on task right now is vitally important.
How big is that game against the Broncos going to be?
It's going to be good. It's going to be big. It's going to be big. Obviously, Sean Payton on the other side. But, hey, he's no longer in this uniform, so doesn't matter. We'll hug and kiss after the game, but until then, we're coming for him.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to this season. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. Appreciate it. It's always a pleasure catching up with Malcolm. As we look forward to Saturday, you can watch the game on Fox 8, 7 p.m. Central with Joel Myers, John Stinchcomb, and myself on the call, or you can tune into WWL Radio and listen to Mike Haas, Deuce McAllister, and Jeff Nowak. Next practice will be Sunday after the team gets back from Arizona. It'll be a late afternoon practice. Then the team will get a day off on Monday. We'll be there for the whole thing. Game day, post-game, practice, and you can find it all on NewOrleansSaints.com. As always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast.